Okay, so if you didn't know, this year I have been diving into the world of stand-up comedy. I've decided I'm going to pair it with the wonderful world of emotional healing. And if you don't know what that is, please watch any one of my other videos on this channel. And just to see honestly how far I can go in the whole stand-up comedy world. I felt like in the past it was one of these things that, you know, it was in a realm of reality of things that I didn't even let myself even consider possibly that I might be, one, even do, but two, even be good at. But this year I've really sort of jumped in. I'm trying to do open mics, and now through stand-up comedy, do I get to heal and process a lot more different emotions. Emotions like, oh, I wasn't funny enough, or I should be doing more, or I'm doing too much, or, I don't know people. All of this stuff gets to come up, and myself, Sharam Namdarian, now I get to heal those emotions. I get to process those emotions. And, it's been really interesting because honestly, I've seen when I've paired stand-up comedy with healing, the rest of my life suddenly has gotten a lot easier because there's a lot of little subtle things about anxiety and things like out there that I've resolved. But let's quickly take a parallel to something else. Let's take a parallel to my world of being Sharam Namdarian, the life coach, Sharam Namdarian, the emotional healer, the dating coach, the relationship coach, sexuality coach, the smorgasbord coach. And that is that I didn't realize till recently that I had this idea, this subtly unconscious idea in my head that if I figured out marketing, then suddenly I get all these clients and a lot of my life problems will be solved. And it's funny that I had this. This is, when I say had, remember, it's past tense. Sometimes when I share my realizations with people, they're often like, do you need help with that? I'm like, no, I'm sharing it because I'm out of it. I'm no longer in it. But anyway, so I had this it's been this subtle thing this entire time as I've been doing like life coaching and emotional coaching and all this stuff, is just this idea that, one day I'll figure it out and I'll be done. I won't have to figure it out anymore and I'll be free with it. Now, do I have this belief with any other part of my life? Well, not really, because on my end, I've just got emotional healing. It's like, oh, I'm anxious, surrender to the anxiety. Oh, I'm nervous, oh, surrender to the nerves. Oh, I can't figure this out, surrender to the can't figure it out. The process is just processing the emotions. I often say this, that everything you feel right now is itself a blockage to something higher and to something greater, that things can be easier and really simple and amazing. In life, you don't realize how hard things have been, or subconsciously we've made hard for ourselves until we realize how easy they can be. So the other day, maybe like a month and a half ago, maybe now, I went to an open mic. And this story could be a story that's entirely in my head, but I'll tell you what, if it is entirely in my head, it was entirely the thing that needed to happen. I'm going to tell you my interpretation of the story, whether or not this is actually something that happened to other people. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes what we get out of a situation is actually irrelevant to the actual situation. But I went to an open mic and it was a new one. And I spoke to the guy who was running it, and he was like, it was a bit disappointed in the amount of turnout that they had. And he was like, I'll figure it out. And then, I'll figure it out. I just got to figure out how to get more people, and then I'll get more people. And what I do when I hear people talk about their blockages, I'm always surrendering to how it feels. If you do any of my courses, for example, the social confidence course, it's basically a guided healing where I list off some of the most major blockages towards being more confident, and I just ask you to surrender to how you feel. So when I'm talking to people, especially someone who's doing something that I want to do, I just surrender to how it feels, because chances are, through a easier situation of hearing it through someone else, it's easier for me to process that emotion and get through it. Anyway, I'm hearing this guy say, I'll figure it out. I just got to figure out how to get more people and then it'll be solved. And it was like looking in a goddamn mirror. And sometimes life is like that. You talk to someone And it's just a fucking reflection of who and what you are at that time to a point where you are suddenly out of it. So it helps you complete that cycle. In that moment, my cycle was completed. I surrendered to how I feel as I was hearing him talk, and I heard such just inner anguish, grinding away. I just got to figure it out. Once I figure it out, I'll get that problem solved. And as I'm surrendering this emotion, my cycle is ending. I'm realizing that's what I've been doing the whole fucking time. And I tell you what the breakthrough was. Because once you process an emotion, the cycle ends, you surrender it how it feels, the cycle ends and you are free from it. The realization was, I looked at him, I didn't say this out loud, but I said this so loudly to myself, to him, that he didn't hear it because I wasn't using my words. That's the job. That's the fucking job. Figuring it out is the job. If you run an event, getting people to the event, that's the job. And from that moment, I've had so many little breakthroughs in my life that are realizations that I've had all of this stuff happening in my life because I feel like I'm actually trying to mitigate the problem. I want to solve how to get money because I want to numb myself from money. I want to solve how to get people at events because I don't want to think about getting people at events. Getting people to events, finding clients, all of this stuff, that's the fucking job. And I don't know where you are at in your life, where you are trying to achieve something because you're actually trying to not do something. But that's like two trains trying to hit each other. It's like you're trying to be successful and you're trying to not be successful. There's two fucking trains hit each other. So obviously what we do is we surrender, we heal, we feel, we all of that stuff. But it made me realize as I processed that emotion that there is a good majority of little subtle tiny things that I feel like once I achieve that, then I won't have to think about that other thing. And that's in a way true. But let's be honest. Filling the event is the job. Now, it's an interesting thing because I shared this with a friend of mine, a good friend of mine who is a doctor, and he's specializing in a specialty. And I shared this with him, and he was like, he's studying for his specialty, is like one of his final exams, and then I'm pretty sure then he's a specialist. Whatever that means. I'm not going to give you too much more information. And he heard this story, and he was like, yeah, actually, that makes a lot of sense. I've been studying for this exam and I've been thinking about, there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of stress in all this stuff. Is it really worth the stress? But that's the job. Dealing with the stress and studying and learning, that's the fucking job. Oh, Jesus, I've had my mic down here. I hope it's been recording. I hope so. Maybe the sound will be shit up until now. Anyway, so that's the fucking job. So this is why I'm obsessed with healing, because there's so much little tiny nuances, little subconscious things that we have in our life that we are unaware of, that we are so completely devoid of disconnecting with what's actually going on that we're actually essentially trying to numb ourselves from the very thing that can get us there. That the very thing that you probably are thinking, I don't want to do this, that's the fucking job. Now, when I say that's the job, we can just get good at that. And how do we get good at that? Well, it's not just the work that's important, but it's how we feel about the work. It's surrendering how we feel, that we're like, okay, for example, in the medical case, being capable of handling stress. Now, there's two kinds of surrender. There's active surrender, which I teach you in these videos, and there's life force surrender, where life forces you to surrender to your emotions, forces you to feel, and forces you to move on and just be done with your life. Life forces you to surrender to things, right? When you are, say, for example, trying to fill an event, when you are, say, trying to get clients, when you are, say, trying to connect with people, when you are trying to be healthier, trying to lose weight, trying to earn more money, all of this shit, what are your subtle and tiny little beliefs that you have towards that thing? Do you think it's hard? Do you think you wish it should be easier? Do you think no one likes you? Do you think that you're struggling? That's the job. Processing all these, like, that's the job. That's the path. And you can process these emotions. You can get good at them. You can let them run through your system so that way you know how to handle it. You know, when I'm teaching like social skills and stuff like that, I don't fucking tell people what to do anymore. You know, I used to literally be a professional wingman, touring the world and being like, have you thought about saying this one? They might like it when you say this. That's because I could fucking handle the stress. They couldn't. And that's fine, but that's the job. That's the fucking job. That's the job. How do you feel? Dealing with that is the job. So what do? We surrender. We surrender to how we feel. Oh, it's hard. It's tough. How does that feel? Let yourself fully fucking feel what's going on. Bad becomes good. Good becomes great. Great becomes amazing. You know, in the case of organizing events, you're like, I don't know how to get people to an event. Surrender. In addition to trying to solve the problem, surrender to how it feels trying to solve the problem. We usually think it's a lot harder than it is. Because that's the fucking job. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you do want to check out the social confidence course, I have one of my other courses, Healing the Blocks of Love, also Introduction to Surrender. If you want more information about what emotional surrender is, you can check that out on sharamnamdarian.com. Right now, my website is going through some technical issues. So if you do jump on my website, sharamnamdarian.com, it might run a little bit slower than is even acceptable. So just wait a minute. The website will load. I've got some tech guys trying to sort it out. Thank you so much. I hope the sound in this video was good. And if not, I'll just do some fancy editing. Thank you so much. You've been wonderful. I'll talk to you soon. Mwah! See you in the future.